Good morning, everyone from Brisbane in Australia. I hope everyone is doing well. Good evening for those over in London and Europe, and good afternoon for the Americas. I'm really happy to join you here this morning. Everything is just waking up. The sun is streaming through my bedroom window here, and I thought the reflection of the light against the window is kind of nice, and it suits this chapter. This chapter is a little bit of a long one, so grab a cup of tea, coffee, your beautiful beverage of choice, a blankie, and sit back and enjoy. This chapter has a little bit of thinking stimulation perhaps going on, so I hope you enjoy it, and please feel free to comment, ask me any questions. Really happy to answer them after the reading. So this might go for about 30 minutes or so, I'd say. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. So this is chapter 2 of Breathing Out Brave. The Cliff, When Change Comes. Trish is a 43-year-old project manager for an architectural firm. Her career evolved from administration and through studying business management led her to a number of project management roles in private and public organisations. She always loved fitness and nutrition, but was guided away from that choice in her early university days. While she enjoys aspects of her job now, she doesn't feel like she's utilising all of her skills. She regularly talks about changing jobs, but is worried about her age being a barrier to starting a new career. She also feels unfulfilled in her personal life. She greatly desires a partner to share life with, but has not yet found a man that meets her list. Although she puts a lot of effort into meeting men, she's been continuously disappointed in the results. She worries she won't ever find a man that's truly compatible for her. Trish is a thinker. She carefully thinks through all the options before making a decision. The biggest problem she faces is that she always finds something to stop her from moving forward. Her usual patterning goes something like, if I leave my permanent job now, the recruiters say I'm very unlikely to get a permanent job in a new career, at least for years. That means I won't get holidays for a while, and I need holidays. I need to spend time with my mum before her illness really takes hold. If I don't have holidays, I can't do that. I really want to be location independent. I've taken a few different courses such as web development, but I don't know if I can do it. What if I fail? I'll then be off in a worse position. What about saving money for my retirement? Change is scary. Jumping into the unknown is hard for all of us. The fear of the leap can be immobilizing. Trish is afraid that the jump will mean fewer options for her in the future, so she remains in the safe zone. The safe zone can only hold us for so long. Change continues to occur around and within us. Understanding why we remain in the safe zone is the first step. The second is identifying our unconscious fears that are blocking us. And the third step is uncovering what drives us, providing us with a compelling reason to take the leap. Sometimes starting with the third step, uncovering what drives us, can give us inspiration to uncover our hidden fears. For example, I asked Trish what she would be doing with her life if she had $1 billion. She said she would be living in a tropical warm place, living very healthily, and exercising every day. I suggested she should do that now. To an outside observer, Trish is in a position to make a change. She doesn't have any children or a partner to factor into her decision-making. She's debt-free and she has some savings in the bank. She can work part-time in project management while she starts her fitness business living in a warmer location. She can have time with her family and begin to build her business into something that is location independent. Compared to many, her life is easy. Nevertheless, the fear of doing something, anything different, is risky or crippling for her. We all reach turning points, top of cliff teeterings with big changes in our lives. You might be going through one of these changes now. Some common turning points for people include death of family members or relationships, a new job, moving home, study, the birth of siblings, or a new or death of an animal companion, losing a job, a change of career, study, illness, health, a book or idea, financial gain or loss, taking up a new hobby. The list is endless. Before reading the rest of this chapter, take some time to list some of the major turning points in your life. The following exercises helped me gain much needed clarity and closure for past events through understanding why I did what I did. It has also given me guidance to navigate change better. Exercise. What have been some major turning points in your life? What happened to cause the change? What emotions did you experience during the change? What were your biggest fears during the change? What helped you through the change and what didn't help? And how do you feel about this turning point now? Types of change. I struggled and rejected change for so long. I grew up on change. Change felt unsafe and was unsafe for me. As I matured, I began healing. I started to get curious about change and how I and others and me around experience it. The following is a summary of the types of change you might or are likely to have experienced in your life. Forced outward change. Many of the turning points in our life are outward inspired or forced. In other words, something that's happening to us or something we perceive that is happening to us. In these situations, we'll often ask, why? Why is this happening to me? Why did my father die so young? Why am I being forced out of a job? Why did my partner leave me? Why is this happening to me now? Why is a good place to start, but it often comes from a very disempowered space. I feel like my life is out of control, or part of my life is out of control. It can seem insurmountable to regain that sense of control or balance. Sometimes we face multiple challenges at once that force us to change. These can be confronting at times emotionally, and they often result in experience a range of anxieties and fears. This could include fear of the future, fear of dying alone, loss of mobility, or of losing access to basic needs such as shelter, food, or human connections being met. Inward inspired change. Inward inspired change is a realization that something in your life is not working. It's often as a result of cumulative thoughts that persist over time. Like a slow nagging feeling that you're really unable to change the situation at work, that you're not unhappy, and that you need to be spending your energy in more productive ways. Or you may be banging yourself up against a brick wall, that the moment that you acknowledge the continual internal bleeding is not healthy for you in the long term. That moment of recognition is powerful. For some, this results in taking definitive steps to change. For others, such as Trish, her inward inspired change is a terrifying prospect to put into action. The accumulation effect. Sometimes continuing small changes accumulate, leading to one mammoth-sized change. Often this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Everything collapses. You're in a crumbling mess. Although from the outside people may see a small setback, for you it's been a series of setbacks that you can no longer cope with. For example, if Trish had a few things happen to her in a progressive manner, if she had a problem with her boss, if her flatmate left and then her mum took a turn, she might break down and decide she can no longer go back to the life that no longer serves her. She would realise that she's unfulfilled in work, in relationships, and in her life more broadly. By recognising that she can process her patterning and make different choices to create a more fulfilling life for herself, she would finally take the steps to start her fitness business. The dark night of the soul. Sometimes things are just so bad that we're forced into the depths of our emotions and psyche and don't emerge for years. There's seemingly no end in sight, no balance, no freedom, nowhere to turn, except inward. The dark night of the soul journey can be inspired by the internal realizations that your life is not working for you, that you cannot see how it can work. You're caught in the depths of an internal journey, a dark night, which is often coupled with a spiritual wakings and realizations. When you do emerge, everything in your life changes. It must change. There is no choice. Relationship breakdowns or reunifications, work, travel, living changes are common and are, for the most part, unavoidable. People who come out of a dark night of a soul usually see their lives and life purposes completely differently, and the life path takes a whole new turn. An idea. Some changes are positively inspired. One idea has the potential to change everything. An adoption of this can mean your life path and goals in completely different directions. These inspirations can come through a variety of methods. It could come from being exposed to the idea in a book, movie, study, a conversation, a deep discussion, or from an inspirational speaker, teacher, or spiritual leader. After studying the benefits of yoga, I've had a few friends who have given up lucrative jobs and careers to become yoga teachers after studying the benefits of yoga. I know many who have completely changed their lifestyles from watching the films Earthlings or The Game Changers. One of my favourite platforms for ideas, TED.com, inspires millions with new ideas every day, influencing and transforming workplaces, collaborations, individuals, and projects across the globe. Understanding fear and why we hold on. Why do we hold on to what we know? Why do we fear change so much? Firstly, it's innate, biological. We see change as a threat to our survival. Threats have to be defended, fought against, taken over, run away from, or potentially ignored. Much research and psychological study has documented fear responses in humans. Perceived threats to our survival create stress and subsequent trauma in our bodies. Threats do not have to be life-changing in order to create physical reactions. Stress responses can be found when we found ourselves stuck in traffic jams, being approached by a boss, or having a conversation with someone new. When we are faced with a threat, we can respond in different ways. The well-documented primary psychological responses include flight, fight, or freeze. All of these responses release a chemical in our bodies called cortisol. Cortisol is a stress-releasing hormone. When built up in the body, can create ongoing health problems. Understanding how we act when poised with a threat is useful for gaining our awareness into our behaviour and what could help us process threats, changes in the future. All of us can move between any of the below responses depending on the situation and the people involved. Some of us have developed patterns of behaviour towards one type of response. When reading the below, consider how you generally respond when posed to a threat or change in your life. Fight. When faced with a threat, a person in fight mode will immediately attack the threat. They will fight back with words, actions, and energy, attempting to overpower the threat. Part of this is an unconscious determination that we are stronger or have equal strength to conquer the threat. Flight. In seeing a threat, a person in flight mode will flee as soon as they sense it. Part of this is an unconscious determination that the threat is more powerful than us, so we can't fight it, but we have the possibility of surviving if we flee. Freeze. Freeze, as it sounds, you don't move. You don't feel powerful enough to do anything. You wait for the threat to pass or potentially overtake you. Essentially, you determine on a psychological level that you're unable to fight the threat or flee from it, so you freeze and disassociate. This is easily observed in small children who are victims of child abuse. Fibbing or fabrication. A newer threat response observed in humans is fibbing or fabrication. We fib or fabricate in the face of a threat for two reasons. The first is to manage someone else's perception, avoiding the feeling of shame. The second is to manage another person's reaction, possibly anger or disappointment, and potentially buys some processing time. Your response to a potential threat is a mix of things. Firstly, a person can respond to a threat in any of the above ways at any time, depending on your conscious or unconscious assessment of the situation. It also can be part personality trait, and it also can be what was allowed or deemed to be appropriate by your early childhood givers. Fear in my life. In my childhood, it was safer for me to freeze my emotional reactions to the stress and continuing multiple episodes of abuse and trauma that I experienced. Looking back, I did not know. I know that I did not feel I had the capacity to fight or flee. I felt simple, lacking intellectual capacity and emotional resilience to do anything about my situation. I've become a master at disassociation, which helped me later in my legal career, but caused havoc in my emotional and personal world. My sister fought. She was seemingly allowed to fight. She was a strong fighter who always got her way at the end of the fight. She was told that she was smart and creative, and I believe this contributed to her psychological strength and belief in herself, which enabled her to fight rather than flee. Fighting was her predominant response, but I also witnessed her fleeing on occasion. Think about times in your life when you've been forced with a threat and how you've responded. How have you used each of these responses? Did you tend to favour one? What were your family dynamics like in response to threats? The big unknown. We fear what we don't know. Another significant reason that stops many people from initiating major change in their lives is the big unknown. We're afraid of what we don't know. So we don't go. We don't do that thing. But is it really the unknown that we're afraid of? Perhaps it is not so much the potential change itself that we fear, but rather our emotions and our emotional response to the change. Our emotional responses are usually repeated patterns that we've developed over years, which we are usually not consciously aware of, that play out in different circumstances. Our emotional worlds and patterning are as deep and varied as the human race, but there are definite common themes. Fear statements. This is an exercise. Take some time to really feel the following statements within yourself to see if any or all of them resonate with you, or particular change in an incident that is affecting or has affected you. I'm afraid of being rejected. If I meet someone new, they will reject me or some part of me. I've been rejected before and it hurts. I don't want to feel that sort of pain again. If I don't step out and do ... I won't be rejected. I will be safe. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. I'm afraid of not being good enough. If I don't do it correctly or perfectly right, I can't do it. I will be rejected. I will reject myself. I'm not good enough to try. I can't learn new things. I'm not good enough as I am. I'm afraid of being yelled at. Someone will yell at me if I try something new. I'm always yelled at. I'm judged. I can never do things right. I can never do anything that is approved of. I'm afraid of dying. Trying something new means death to me. I could potentially die. I can't break my routine. I'll die if I do. I'll be rejected and die. I'll be bereft and die. I'll be alone and dead. I'm afraid of feeling alone, end up being alone. If I try something new, I'll end up alone. I'll be rejected because I'll be doing something new, or I'll reject other people because I've done something new and they won't get to me. I don't want to die alone, so I won't try something new. I'm afraid of failing. Failure is real. I'll be judged if I fail. I'll be rejected if I fail. I'll reject myself if I fail. Failure is death to me. Failure is like being empty, like nothing, no value. I'm afraid of being judged. People will look at me differently. They'll say that I'm not good enough or I haven't done something right. People will see how fucked up I am. I'm afraid of pushing away people I love. People who are important to me won't like what I'm doing. They will feel pushed aside and unloved by me. I'm afraid of feeling shame, of being shamed. I desperately want to avoid shame, so I'll freeze right here. There's no way out for me. I'm afraid of not being perfect. If I'm not perfect, then there's no point. Being perfect is what makes sense to me. Perfect is essential. Then I'll be able to prove my worth. I'm afraid there's something wrong with me. People will say that I'm wrong, that I make bad decisions. I'm afraid of never getting what I want, that I will go for something and I'll never get it. If none of the above resonates, then do a 10-minute meditation. There are many on YouTube and I've included some suggestions in the back of this book. Then go back to this list. Most of us have these fears, whether we are consciously aware of them or not. Becoming aware of the emotions behind your actions and then allowing these feelings to be fully felt is what allows you to process your emotions and heal. This is deeply feeling, but often a very painful exercise. In Trisha's case, she recognises that she's afraid of failure and believes her new business will not work. Her subconscious emotional patterning is that she has a deep fear of dying alone. If she took a risk in business, in her unconscious emotional world, it would equate to dying alone. This might seem like a big leap, but going through the processes set out in this book, we were able to uncover these deeper roots. Go back to your list of turning points that you wrote down at the start of this chapter. Use one example and see if the above feelings resonate with you for any of the big change events in your life. Further exercise in the coming chapters will help you with processing these emotions. The comfort zone. Another reason why we fear change is comfort. Comfortable in our lounge rooms, in our beds, in our jobs, in our routines, our families, our ways of interaction, our work tasks, our home tasks, our friendship circles, our morning bus routines, our ways of working, our relationships, our TV series, our zones. We get used to our routines, getting up, going to work, doing an outside or inside home activity, sleeping, and repeat. Repetition is a super powerful tool that can work for and against us. We are creatures of habit. We hate our routines being interrupted. We get anxious, sad, or even angry when our patterns are disturbed. I miss my 6 p.m. kickboxing class, and the traffic relationship or boss is most certainly to blame. Our comfort zones create shells that keep us enclosed and can cause us to lash out if interrupted. Predominantly, they keep us in this sweet bubble of benign. Comfort keeps us safe, unstretched, but cocooned. The relationship comfort zone. In my late 20s, I was in a long-term relationship. I knew I wanted to make a change. I knew I wanted something different. Despite my multiple reruns of the pros and cons of leaving my partner, I could not think of a big enough reason to leave. He was a nice guy, kind to the animals. He was also alcoholic, and our lives revolved around his ability to drink copious amounts of alcohol every single night of the week, eating late and watching movies. I was not stimulated or inspired by the relationship. I tried to inspire and stimulate, but this fell flat. I was strongly attached to the idea of having my relationship succeed. I had seen the relationships of my parents and my sister fail, and I was determined to demonstrate relationship success, desperately. I needed to prove something to myself, my ego. I was better than my family. I could prove that. I was deeply afraid of failure. And guess what? Eventually my relationship failed spectacularly. My worst fears were realised when I found all of my belongings spewed across my front lawn. I couldn't be more embarrassed, and there couldn't be a more demonstrated visual evidence of failure than that. I felt like one of my clients, and I was better than my clients, right? My unconscious fears included fear of failure, feelings of shame, being judged, and not being perfect. I did not want to feel the shame of not being perfect, yet there it was, so visually displayed. I knew I was proud to have a relationship that worked prior to the relationship ending, but I didn't know at the time that the underside to this emotion was preventing me from ending a relationship that not only was not working, but was unhealthy for both of us in multiple ways. The following 12 months, I worked on my fears of failure, shame, imperfection in a deep and painful way in relation to relationships, but also into my life generally. By allowing myself to really feel the emotions of shame, failure, imperfection, they transformed, and much changed in my life as a result. I saw my clothes all over the lawn moment through kinder eyes. The hurt my ex-partner felt through his dramatic action became clearer. I also saw this action and our breakup as a necessary step to healthier lives for both of us, where we were no longer supported each other's addictions, him alcohol, me food. I began to feel stronger in myself and what I wanted. I became very clear on what I would not accept in future relationships. This reflected in other areas of my life, and I reinvented my career in a way that was energizing and motivating. I developed a strong sense of hope in my future, and I also experienced gratitude for the drama-filled breakup, as it led me within a year to a substantially more fulfilled life. The career comfort zone. Trish, who we met at the start of this chapter, is in a career comfort zone. She has a permanent, secure job. It's easy for her. But she doesn't feel challenged or stimulated, and she doesn't see a future in it. She's too afraid to take the leap into something that could potentially fulfill and inspire her every day. How could Trish make a change? The biggest stumbling block for Trish is her buried emotions. Logically, she can understand all the incredible choices available to her. She can sense the possibilities for her life, that they could be more in alignment with her values and goals. She also recognizes that it is fear that is holding her back. She recognizes that she keeps her buried emotions in boxes to the side. She's not ready to examine them. She also can't see things working out for her, that it would be possible for her to succeed by herself. What would help Trish? There are many strategies presented in the coming chapters. An easy start would be for her to commit to doing something new each week. This would allow her to emotionally, physically understand the feeling of new, and that doing something new does not mean that things will go horribly wrong. The deeper and more powerful work would be to process her buried emotions, investigating and seeing the unconscious blocks and working with them to create sustained change. This will be examined in more detail in the following chapters. The cliff face of change. We have all been to the cliff face of change. We have responded to that change in a variety of ways based on our personality, past experience, and contemporary circumstances. Critical to understanding how we change is to discover our fears surrounding the unknown. Once we see our underlying fears, we can begin to transform them. This chapter introduces us to these concepts, and through working through the exercises and examples, we can understand our behaviours and actions towards change on a deeper level. The following chapters will take us further into our conscious and release patterning that holds us back from fully embracing the unknown in our lives. So that's the end of chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it stimulating, some good reflection points in there. If you have any questions, would love to answer them. Just put a comment below this live video, send me a message. Would love to hear from you. I'm actually going to be doing another live reading in 12 hours time. At 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's a very short chapter. It's going to take 5 minutes tonight. So if you want to join me tonight or this morning, your time, would love to see you there. Thanks so much, everyone. And just a reminder, Breathing Out Brave, the downloadable ebook version is only 99 cents for 2 more days. So grab your copy now. Thank you, and have a beautiful day, have a beautiful sleep, have a beautiful evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks, everyone.